Welcome back to another vintage story tutorial. This tutorial goes through the different processes for building a windmill. It comes in two parts. The first part is on the parts you'll need and how to build a simple windmill. The second part is how to increase the power on a windmill and how to automate it. I hope you find it useful. Right guys, let's build a windmill. Now to build a windmill, and I'm going to build a basic one first, you will need a set of sails, a windmill rotor, a 1 wooden axle for the top, 3 for the side, angled gears and a quern. So the first thing is to make sure that you have enough of these items, and remember it's the axles that you would need 4 of. 1 rotor, 1 set of sails, 1 set of angled gears and 1 quern. Let's show you how to make some of those items. I'm starting with a windmill rotor where we need a hammer, a chisel, 2 logs and a piece of fat. Okay, right, hammer, chisel, and I don't think it matters which logs, so let's take a couple of those, and fortunately I had not made my fat into lamps yet, so I just need 1 piece, so I think it's one piece of fat, 2 logs, a chisel and a hammer. Oh, look at that. Oh. Right, we have the rotor. Right guys, let's make some angled gears. Saw, hammer, 2 sticks, a chisel, a log and some fat. So let's put in 2 sticks, the saw goes in the middle, the hammer goes on the left, the chisel goes in the middle, the fat goes on the right, the log goes in the middle. Excellent, we have angled gears. Perfect. Right guys, let's make a wooden axle. For this we need a hammer, a chisel, a log and a piece of fat. Alright, let's get our piece of fat out, and then we need the hammer, chisel. Do I have a log on me? I don't, but we have logs here, very easy. So log, fat, hammer, chisel. Oh, 2 wooden axles, wonderful. Right guys, let's make some sails. Now, what you'll need are 6 sticks, come on, that you put in that pattern. Whoa. And then you want, here we are, 6 linen, and that will make you a set of 4 sails. Sails come in sets of 4. Right guys, let's build the windmill. We want to start with the rotor blade and an axle at the top. We will then put the sails on. We then need axles going downwards and angled gears. Okay. So, coming up to the top, the first thing to do is to get an axle in place. Once this is in place, the rest becomes a lot easier. Now these things are directional, so if you put it like that, it will be the wrong way round. So you need to put it on from this direction. Let's hope this works. There you go. All right, now having got that in place, and I do recommend that you have some scaffolding with you, let's just come out a little bit. In fact, I'm going to come up from the bottom, because one thing to be aware of is if you put the blades so that they hit something, they pop off and they just fall down, which we do not want at this point. So let's come up, and I'm allowing one block between me and the blades at the moment, because the next, let's go up a bit further. Right, so the next piece we need is the rotor. So that one goes there, and then your sails attached to the rotor. Now I'm just going to go down a little bit because I don't want to be in the way of the sails. There we are, and immediately the sails start turning. How thrilling is that, guys? So immediately, because the wind is blowing, the windmill is working. Now the next bit is to come up to the top again. Look at that. And then you need the angled gears, and these things self-correct, guys. So you put your angled gears there, and as soon as you attach the axle to them, there, can you see that the other one comes into play and the axle starts to turn? Good. Now come down here, and realistically that's all you need. You can put a quern on here. Let's go and get our quern. But obviously a quern needs support, but I'm just showing you the short version so you can, oh, whoops, right. I'm just showing you the short version. A quern has to go on a solid block. So if you put the quern on there, that is ready to grind. But the wind has stopped, and one of the things that may confuse you to start with is when the wind stops, so does your windmill, and you have to wait for it to start again. I thought I'd done something wrong, but you haven't. You just have to wait till the wind blows again, then the sails go round, and your quern will grind, which is fantastic. Okay, so basically that is, you would have to put your items in and you would have to manually pull them out with this system, but it means that you don't have to stand there and grind. You can just put them in, leave it to grind, and come back and get it later. So that is how you put together a very simple windmill. Now, you wouldn't normally have your quern high in the air, but as you can see, I'm building a slightly larger version here. That is just the first stage. If you want to make a bigger version and automate it more, you will need other items, and the other items you will need are chests and hoppers. So let's learn how to make hoppers. Right guys, I have here a pile of copper plates. Let's make a hopper. You'll need 3 copper plates, and you just put them in a V shape. You will have noticed that if you want to make a chute, it just takes 2. And we have a hopper. Right guys, I have taken my windmill down and I have moved it. I've also added up here an extra axle, and axles have to be placed on a solid block, which is why this block is here. Now, it's going to be a lot easier to automate this if we can see what is happening, and so I want to power it up a little bit more. I've got a set of cells there. Let's see if we can. I'm too low. I'll have to go up. Let's come up here. Wow, you can hear it creaking. Right, that's 2 sets of sails, and immediately you can see the difference, and we'll put a 3rd set on. Wow, that looks absolutely fantastic. Now, let's just go and have a look at that from the bridge so that you can see the difference. That's much better. My sails look very grey in this light. Sometimes they look white, but I'm waiting for my field of flax down there to mature so that I can get the next set. Set a windmill will take up to 4 sets of sails. That's 3 sets, and each set of sails is 25% of its power. So at the moment this is 75% of its power. We're waiting for 1 more set of sails. So that's how you power up the windmill, and you can see the speed it's going at. Right, now what we want to do is to take some axles and these gears. Come on. That's it. And we are going to keep the axle coming down. Now at the bottom we want to turn a corner here, so we put in one of these self-correcting gears. Now I don't want it that close, so I'm going to put in another axle there. That's right, and then I'm going to put the other gear there and an axle, and I'm going to put, I want to leave that gap there, then I put the next axle here. Right guys, a quern, I've decided to keep it at this level. A quern can be powered by putting an axle in the top as we originally had it, or by putting an axle in the bottom like that. So when the wind goes, this quern will be powered. To fully automate a windmill, you have to understand how the quern works. When it rotates, the bits of particles come out of the sides of the quern, and then they drop down, so you need hoppers at what is floor level for a quern, not next to a quern. Now if you want to block one of the sides of the quern, as I do, you need to do it with a block. So I'm just going to go and get a nice block. Any block will do, but I have to say I just happen to want a fancy block. Right, now querns of course could be made of different colours. A basalt quern looks particularly smart, so in the long term I might actually change this for basalt quern, I think. So I'm going to put a block there, and that should stop anything coming out of the quern. And you can see that this doesn't touch the axle, so it's not going to stop it. The next thing we need to do is to put chests around here that will catch the droppings from the hoppers. So a quern will shed particles as it turns. The particles come out of the side of the quern and drop into this space, which is where you want your hoppers. But you want to catch those particles. So let's get the chests, that's it, around them. And then the hoppers, just get the hoppers on here, go on the chests like that. You have to hold shift to place them. And oh gosh, there we go. Now the theory is that this block here will block the little bits of ground material coming out of the quern. When the quern goes round, and of course the wind has stopped, the particles of ground material are thrown out of the side of the quern, not the bottom. If you want to block a side, as I do because I've got this mechanism here, then you put a block next to that side. Because the particles of material come out of the side of the quern, the hoppers have to be effectively at what is floor level for the quern. Now hoppers will not take things horizontally, they only work vertically. So these hoppers should take the particles of ground up matter that are falling out of the quern, and they should head them into here. Okay. And now, oops, I'm starving. If you want to look in a hopper, you right click it and it will show you what is in it. Now, when you right click on a quern, you will see that normally you put your matter that you want ground up into this slot and it will transfer it to here. This is not what we want. We want it not to go in there. So I'm putting a stick there to block the output of the quern. And then of course what we need to do is to put something in the quern that it can grind up. So I'll put this in. There we go. When ground turns into flour. So we're going to make flour. Okay. As I said, all we have to do is to wait for the wind to blow. And you can see as the sun sets behind it, the sails go white. It's weird actually. I'd have thought that when the sun was in front of it they'd be white, and when the sun was behind it they'd be grey, but it goes the opposite way round. Good, that's starting to look almost like a proper windmill when it's 3/4 done. May I just say that my strong recommendation would be to keep a quern like this one that you can always use manually in case the wind is not blowing, because this is very true to life. In Vintage Story, the windmill only turns when the wind is blowing. So when the wind's not blowing, if it's automated or if, you know, so when the wind is not blowing, if you are depending on the sails to turn the quern, then the quern will not work. So keep a manual quern in case of emergency. Right guys, the wind has started up, so let's go and have a look at the quern. Well, it's certainly working. You can see it's called the granite quern. Let's have a look at the hoppers. Nope, nothing in there. Nothing in there. Nothing in there. But here comes some of the, now it's gone from there, so where's it gone? It's not going into there. Aha! Right guys, look at this. The quern is racing round. The flax grain is being thrown out, but it can't go into there. So, the hopper's empty. But we have flour in the chests, and that hopper is empty. We have flour, that hopper is empty, and we have flour in that chest. So this setup works. Right guys, I must say that is a magnificent sight. Now, when we finished doing this, I want to take this out, right? Okay, and then the other thing we can do is we can actually automate the feed into here. And we do this, let me just move this off my bar. I was panning while I waited for the wind. Right. I might need a platform for this one. But what we can do is to come up, and if we can put a hopper on top of the quern, like that, we can then feed the flax grain. Hang on. Come here. Into the hopper, and can you see it's going into the quern? Of course you can hear it. Listen to the sound, guys. So that feeds into the quern, and then you almost have it completely automated. Now obviously, okay, so that hopper feeds into the quern, into these hoppers here. Now if you extend this, I'm quite sure, and you raise it up, I'm quite sure that you can actually make the whole thing work from 4 sides. And I know that if you add chutes, you can get it to feed into one chest instead of having everything in 3 different chests as I have here. But for the amount of trouble it is, guys, it's just not worth it for me. Because, I mean, I've got 25 flax flour. I haven't had to do a thing for that. It's just working. Now, these things will grind halite into salt. They will grind limestone into lime. So that is, in my view, a fantastic piece of kit. All I need is one more set of sails, and my windmill will be complete. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed that tutorial on how to make a simple windmill, how to power it up and how to automate it, and I hope you find it useful. If you do, please leave a like and consider subscribing to me. Bye bye.